What's the pelt behind you that I'm looking at?
A bear that I shot in Arizona with the Apache Indians, man. It's epic.
Tell me about the hunt.
Dude, it's awesome, man. It's a friend of mine knows a guy that runs a outfitter. They have like 1.5 million acres, and he's a part of the Apache Indian tribe there, and he controls all of the hunting. And so, dude, it's pretty raw, though. You're just sitting on the ground like 50 yards from these big old bear come in, and that's it. You ought to come with me.
50 yards on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, your guide sits behind you with like a big 357 or something in case they come up behind you or want to check you out. Yeah, it's awesome.
What'd you shoot it with?
I think probably a 308.
You shot a bear with a 308.
Yeah.
That's not a high-powered, that's not a lot of lead for a bear, is it?
Yeah, it'll do it. It'll do it.
Well, shoot, Dirt. I'm having good conversation here. I haven't hit your nice, interesting intro here.
Just keep it rolling.
I guess we should tell people, welcome to the Aggressive Life, first of all. Welcome. Great to have you. This is one of those rare ones where I get to be with a guy who I'd known for quite some time before this podcast. You know, sometimes we'll find some interesting people, and I got to get a sheet on who they are, take a look at their book, all that kind of stuff. But this dude, I've known him for a few years now, and awesome. I can actually combine my my job, or at least my podcast job, with my friendships. Joby Martin, how are you?
Doing great.
Well, why don't you have people just, who are you, first of all? You want me to introduce you, or you want to introduce you?
Oh, I don't care. I'm nobody, but...
Not true.
I pastor a church in Jacksonville, Florida. It's going pretty good, and I write some books, and I'm married to Chrirstian Martin. It'll be 25 years in February. That's pretty awesome. I have 2 kids, an 18-year-old son at FSU, and a 14-year-old daughter who's a freshman in high school. And that's it. I hunt a lot.
Yeah, you mentioned your son is at FSU. And he used to do a lot of coaching. Is he still playing something at FSU right now?
No, he trains MMA. He could have played maybe like, I don't know, Division II football kind of thing, but he's a pretty gifted grappler, and so he does jiu-jitsu and all that sort of stuff.
What's the difference between grappling and wrestling?
Grappling is going for a submission, and wrestling is the goal is to either pin or score a bunch of points.
Submission, as in, like, I'm going to break your arm, so tap out kind of thing?
It's tap, snap, or nap. Those are your 3 options.
Tap, snap, or nap.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. I love that. I was never a big MMA guy until I had Michael Chandler on the podcast a number of years ago, who clued me in on just sort of the athleticism of it. And I'm still not going and, watching UFC fights or matches, but I find it's one of my favorite things to watch on YouTube when I take a dump, is MMA stuff. And, Michael Roy just clued me into just the physical fitness and the whole process of the whole thing. So I've kind of become a fan.
Oh, man, I'm a huge fan. These guys are like, their athleticism is,
right.
I can't even... I've trained jiu-jitsu for a while. Like, I'm a purple belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which is, whatever. It's all right. I can beat up your average. I can beat up most pastors for sure and most average church people. But, bro, you train with a pro for just a second. And, my friends would be like, how'd it go? I'd be like, I don't know. Imagine you played one-on-one basketball with Shaq. How do you think that would go? That's about how it went. They would tap me out about every 4 seconds. Like, I can't even, the amount of strength, it's unbelievable. These guys are freaks. Absolute freaks.
They are freaks. What I always had a trouble with it was just pummeling somebody in the face with uppercuts while they're on all fours never really appealed to me. But as I started taking a look at it from the standpoint of the athleticism and the training, it just really impressed me. And so, yeah, I'm a fan of that, I guess.
Yeah, me too. And just the freaking stones it takes to step into a ring with a dude even if you just do a jiu-jitsu tournament and you're not punching each other in the face and it's,
right.
It's all well regulated. Still, to be a grown person and go grapple a stranger, it takes, it's a thing, man.
So how long have you been doing the jiu-jitsu thing?
I trained real hard for about 10 years, and then like kids sports took over for a while. So I've been a slacker for the last probably 8 years or so. So now I just train occasionally with my son, but for a while I was at it pretty hard.
When you say training, how many days a week is that?
Like 2 or 3. Like again, man, my body can't handle but so much, so. Yeah,
a buddy of mine who was really, he was ranked, he was the real deal in Israel, Clev Myers, really intense guy. He said I had to give it up because it just took too much time. My body couldn't heal itself because you're wailing on each other pretty hard in training, right?
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, it's full tilt for sure. But the kind of thing that a person like me would do at a little local jiu-jitsu gym, it's very helpful. It's incredible, but it'd be like playing club tennis versus what you see at Wimbledon.
Right.
It's almost not even the same. It's like YMCA basketball versus the NBA. So, and again, I haven't been training like I should or whatever, but for a long time I did.
So let's say I want to try out jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
What does that look like? I show up someplace and say how much the cost, and I show up as often as I want, or what's the whole process? What do you think they start me doing when I first show up?
Yeah, they're probably just going to kind of put you in a beginner's class and give you a free week or something to see how you like it, and you're going to totally feel like a fish out of water. And I would encourage anybody that wants to do it, give it a few weeks or maybe even a month and be committed to it. One of the great things about jiu-jitsu is it's really the only like combative sport I can think of that you can go full tilt and then still get up and go to work the next day. Like if you train Muay Thai, you can't actually spar. You just kind of have to touch. Because if you kick me in the face, I can't preach this weekend. But in jiu-jitsu, you're grappling, so you just tap out and you won, and then you go on to the next round. So that's one of the benefits. And then just from like a personal protection standpoint, if you trained a little bit of jiu-jitsu, you would be able to defend yourself and handle yourself in 99% of every situation. And, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking of doing it. I did a little Krav Maga, two classes actually, one in Israel and then one local with my wife. We did it, and I ended up farting the whole time. I mean the whole time. They had us down on our backs, and we're supposed to push crab walk away on our backs, and if someone was coming punching us in the face, so we were trying to get away. Everything was like on the wrestling mat. It just echoes perfectly. The whole night.
Could be a very effective technique, though. Could work out good either way.
Well, fortunately, they were the loud farts and not the silent but deadly ones. But nonetheless, I've thought about that. I thought, I've been in a number of situations, or I think that it's close to getting in that situation where I thought, I can handle myself. I'm not a scaredy cat, but having some official training might be something I'd be up for doing. So I may check that out.
Yeah, if I got into an altercation, of course I don't want to get into a fight. I hope I never have to get into a fight. But if I do, I would like to be able to the one that decides how and when it ends, not for that to be decided for me.
Yep. So if you're not aware, Joby is pastor of a massive church, huge church in Jacksonville, Florida. At least that was the initial campus, and you're all over the place. And it's one of those churches. I always 24/7, 365, 1169. What's the name of your? I always forget these churches that have numbers. I always mess 11, 20, 24/7. What is it?
1122, the Church of 1122.
I knew that. I'm just having fun. I know I'm bothering you. See, I can do this because you're not going to kick my ass right now because we're on Zoom, so you're not going to reach out. I can see it, though. I actually bothered you a little bit. I like it.
No, it bothers me. I love it that we have such a dumb church name. Because all these churches, because we did get real big and we got all the campuses and we're trying to learn from Crossroads, but, I love it that we don't have some cool name because we didn't mean to be a church. I mean, we started a service that started at 11:22 on Sunday morning, so that's just what I called it, and now it's what it is. So, I think it's great.
This is inspiring. This is not a church pastor podcast. It's not even a faith podcast. Although I'm a person of faith, so it comes in all the time. But the podcast really is about what I want to talk about. It's about podcasts, and I'll do what I want to. And so I am when I'm with guys like you, I just get into a different gear. I find it so inspiring. And tell us about like the church you came from, because it's really an aggressive move. That guy who led that church that you came from, what he allowed you to do, that was a massively aggressive move in 11:22. Just give the short version of that or long version.
Yeah. So I was a youth pastor for a long time, and I moved to Jacksonville in 2003, and then in 2008, my pastor, his name's Jerry Sweat, pastor of a church called Beach Church in Jacksonville Beach, Florida, right down the road from here. I worked for him, and he let me start a service to reach people to be a little different than the kind of services that we offered. And in about a year and a half, it had outgrown the whole church. And what most, especially pastors, but really most any men, especially insecure men, would do, would have patted me on the head and said, hey, good job, now I'll take it from here, and sent me back to the youth room. But that's not what he did. He fanned the flame, he encouraged me, and he said, I think you should plant a church. And then not only did he give me that permission and that encouragement, then he let us as a church live at his church for almost 2 years while we found a place to go and raised money and raised support and got our leadership and all of that, and then launched us. And then continued to support us like crazy when we launched. And even today, like his son is the youth pastor at our church. Like my kid's youth pastor was a kid from my youth group, which was my pastor's son. And that's cool. So he's like our grand pastor. When Pastor Jerry walks in this place, it's a standing ovation because
that's great.
Without that dude, there is no 11:22. Love him.
Yeah, you think about that. He could have held all of his cards close to his vest, could have just kept doing his own church thing, but he saw a young guy who had a vision and he decided to get behind it. That was an aggressive move. And look what's happened now in the kingdom, however many thousands of people you've been able to bring to faith, and tens of thousands of people have had their hearts touched in some way, shape, or form, all because a guy said, I'm not going to be protective and conservative. I'm gonna fan some flame on somebody. That's sweet.
Yeah, he says, it's not original to him. I don't know who said it first, but he says it a lot. Maybe in the kingdom of God, the true measure of success is not what you do, but who you raise. That's pretty awesome.
Damn. I've never heard that before. It's not. Well, give it to me again.
He says, maybe in the kingdom of God, true success is not what you do, but who you raise.
Oh, dude, that is fantastic. Wow. So how are you juggling your full-time mega pastor gig thing along, we may just call it what it is. I was with I did man camp this last weekend, and we had a guy in our unit, old friend of mine. He's an Episcopal priest that left the Episcopal church. And so then he took his church out of the Episcopal church. Got about 300 people or so in the church, and he's older. He's I don't know what he is. Dude's probably 62 or so. And he said, yeah, I'm a parish priest. That's what I am. So I'm a parish priest. And when he said that, I thought, that's really cool that you just kind of own that. Like, I'm a parish priest. And it informs like who you are. And I thought, could I do that? Could I just own and say, yeah, I'm a megachurch pastor? I don't know. It sounds kind of maybe gross, maybe, I don't know. But I thought, I should just own it, man. Yeah, I'm a part of a church that's freaking mega, that's massive. And that means there's things about my life that are going to be unique to me. That's what my buddy Eric was saying, was there's things about his life and his ministry choices that are going to be unique to him. So anyway, how are you doing in juggling the megachurch pastor gig stress?
Man, you know how it goes. You know better than anybody, man. You do the thing. The thing is I have a wife and kids and family and friends, and none of them see me as a mega anything. I'm just Joby. And I mean, I just have my regular life too. It is very, very integrated. Like, I don't feel like I ever clock out. When you're a pastor, when do you not love God and pray and care for people and read your Bible? I mean, but I got a great team around me. That helps a ton. So as much as possible, I stay out of the day-to-day of running the place because it's so complex now. I I mean, what do I know about real estate and launching new campuses and signing construction deals? I don't know anything about that stuff. So I got a great team around me, and they allow me to do the things that I'm good and gifted at and called to. But honestly, I feel like my family schedule drives more than anything else.
Yeah.
And I think that's really helped. Like, my wife's out of town on a women's retreat, so this morning I got up and cooked eggs and bacon for my daughter Reagan, and we sat at the table and ate it, and I got in Carline and dropped her off, and now I'm at my job talking to you, which I've been looking forward to, and then I got to go pick her up at 3:30 and go to the gym, and just all that, stuff. And in the meantime, the thing that I didn't see coming, like I bet when you said yes to God to teach the Bible for a living, you had no idea you get to meet the people you get to meet. And so that's been incredible. The opportunities that I get. I was just with the Duck Dynasty guys earlier in the week and went duck hunting and was on their podcast. And, some of the people you get to meet is incredible. And I didn't see that coming. But the reality is I'm the same turd I've been every day of my life. Yeah. I'm the same guy, man. And for whatever reason, God's used me to reach a bunch of people. Praise God. I'm happy he has. And I want to get to do it all the days of my life. I just try to stay in my lane and be grateful and work hard and do my job.
How are you dialing in your extracurricular activities outside the nuts and bolts of the church? Like, you got a book out that's amazing, Run Over by the Grace Train. How are you organizing your life to be able to write that, or how are you organizing your organization to partner with you in writing that before even getting the content?
No, that's it, man. We have great elders, and I've got great other pastors here that they don't live in the tyranny of the or, and they haven't made me, bifurcate that part of my life, but the church has just grabbed onto it. And so when I write and release books, and it's just all a part of who I am as the pastor of this church. And so it's been really great. And all 3 books I've done so far, the church has just embraced it all the way. So I just kind of work around it, and it's a lot of extra right now, but it's kind of what I signed up for. So,
how about giving us a 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute sermon, whatever you want, on the grace train? Like, a lot of us, the only thing we know about grace is I'm supposed to say something before I eat it, eat the meal or something like that. So, and those of us who do have a grace background, we forget it because the world just stomps it out of us, and we fall prey to legalism, religion, rules, whatever. So, freshen us up, man. Tell us what it is.
Grace is one of the most misunderstood concepts in the whole Bible, and it's kind of the foundation of the whole thing. I mean, we're saved by grace through faith, and so a couple of misunderstandings of grace. Well, grace is unmerited favor. That's like a super old definition, but it's kind of hard to improve on. And our relationship with the Lord is the only place I can think of in a man's life, in a person's life, where the verdict comes before the performance. Everywhere else, you perform, and then somebody makes a judgment. The message of the gospel is, because of what God has done through his son, Jesus Christ, that the verdict comes, and then because of the verdict, we act a certain way, not the other way around. And then in the church, grace is misunderstood because in a bunch of ways. Some people think that, well, grace is fine for you good church people, but you don't know what I've done. And if you think that, you just don't know how big God is. You don't know how good God is. You don't know how loving God is. And you don't know what Jesus did for you. So nobody's too far gone. There's more grace in Jesus than sin in you, period, end dot. But then on the other extreme is other people think, well, grace just means because if I believe the right things, I can do whatever I want. No, you can't. That's not the grace of Jesus either. So the title, Run Over by a Grace Train, I've been using this phrase a long time with my church. Brian, if you were late to this podcast, I said, bro, why were you late? And you said, my bad, I got run over by a freight train. I'd be like, I don't think you did. Because your hair looks great, your skin looks great, you got your eyeballs and teeth, you're not bleeding. You don't look like you've been hit by a train. And yet there's a bunch of church people that say they've met Jesus, encountered Jesus, and their life looks no different. And his grace is infinitely more powerful than a freight train. So this isn't works-based righteousness. This isn't you have to get your act together to come to him. This is when you meet him, he changes everything.
Wow. So how does a person's life look when they're hit by the grace train?
Well, Paul would say in Galatians that you begin to demonstrate fruit of the Spirit like love and joy and peace and patience and kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. There's a big old theology word that you and I would know called sanctification, which just means over time you look more and more like Jesus. Now, the reality is, though, we don't check the sanctification boxes in the same order or maybe in the order that our wives wished. But when you love somebody because you know they love you, things begin to change in your life. Mm-hmm. That you become more like him and less about you.
And what does that? Let's say Joe Blow gets hit by the grace train. What might somebody see him say that he wouldn't have said before? What would somebody see him do that he wouldn't have done before?
Maybe be a little more gracious towards other people because he understands that God has been gracious towards him. Maybe be a little less entitled, thinking that this world owes him something because he realized that what he was owed was really death and judgment, but what he received was grace. Mm. Those are the kinds of things. Maybe he would begin to treat people the way Jesus treated him instead of treating people and using people as a commodity to get what he wanted.
Yeah.
Now, see, the problem is, I grew up in the South. So we were taught if you were a good Christian, which there is no such thing. There's just dead and alive spiritually. There's not good and bad. But anyway, the list was you didn't drink or smoke or chew or go with girls who do. That was the list. Yep. Well, I'm from a little town called Dillon, South Carolina. So the prom queen would dip. You know what I'm saying? That's where I live. So,
God bless America.
Yeah, let's go. She's like, how y'all doing? So we're not talking about a bunch of external morality changes that make you different. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like the thief on the cross that just asked Jesus for a favor. And he said, will you just do me this one favor, Jesus? When you go before your Father in heaven, will you remember me? And Jesus basically says, bingo, brother, you're going to heaven. Why? He didn't do anything different, but he received grace.
Powerful. Yeah, I don't think most of us know how to live by grace. I think we know how to lean into the forgiveness aspect of grace. I think we know how to sing Amazing Grace, but I don't know that many people even have an aspiration to live by grace. We more want to live by truth. And I want to live by truth too, right? John 1 says that Jesus came full of grace and truth. There's a lot of people who are truth people. There's a lot of people who are crazy people. There's very few people who meld the two together. And I would say probably even fewer that really have a biblical, healthy, life-altering understand of grace. I love that. You get hit by the grace train. Like no matter what you do, God is for you and in you. That's a crazy train to get hit by.
Yeah, that would change everything, man. And you know, like you just quoted, Jesus came full of grace and truth.
Right.
There's no more full than full.
Right.
It was not a seesaw. It's not like as grace went up, truth went down, or vice versa. It was all grace and all truth. I mean, a beautiful example of this is in John chapter 8 when when they throw the woman caught in the act of adultery in front of him. And the religious guys were like, all right, man, the law says throw rocks at her till she's dead. What say you? And he shows up full of grace and truth.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, whoever hadn't sinned, throw the first stone. Everybody leaves because they're all sinners. And then he's like, who condemns you? She's like, nobody. Grace. Leave your life of sin. Truth. And the reason he's telling her that is not because she's bad. The reason he's telling her that is because this was not the abundant life he intended for her when he came up with the idea of her. It's like a good parent to a kid. The only reason you tell them quit doing that is because you love them and you want what's best for them.
Yep. All right, I'm going to give you your nine truths. Your book is built around the 9 truths of grace, and you need to make sure that you work in the story about your 2 dogs wherever you want to, because that's kick-assery. Okay, so give a little mini devotion on these 9 things. Number 1, grace saves.
Yeah, it's Ephesians 2, man. You are saved by grace through faith. Faith means that you trust that when Jesus died on the cross, it counted for you. There's nothing you can do to earn it.
Grace can't be lost, and neither can you.
Yeah, a lot of church people will ask, can a believer lose their salvation? It's the wrong question. The question is, can God lose one of his children? The answer is no, because you didn't earn it to begin with. So you can't earn it when you screw up. God knows everything that he's saving you from when he saves you. So he's not surprised.
Grace sanctifies both the rebel and the religious.
This is an unpacking of what we've been told is called the story of the prodigal son. It's actually a prodigal father and two lost sons. Some people are lost in their rebellion, like the younger son, forget you got to do what I want. Some people are lost in their religion, that they can earn a right standing with God. The word prodigal means lavish, and the real lavish one is the dad. He lavishes his love on both the older son and the younger son.
Man, that is a great thing. Next time I do the prodigal, that's a new angle at it. You know, rebel and religious versus the younger son, older son. That's awesome. All right, 4, grace does not condemn.
Yeah, this is the woman caught in the act of adultery. We spent 2 chapters on sexual sin because sexual sin just dings the soul differently. That's what Paul says in 1 Corinthians 6. And this is what I just said, that Jesus, that he lets this woman know, caught in the act of adultery, that he doesn't condemn her, and then loves her enough to tell her, now go and leave your life of sin.
Grace cleanses.
We look at David and Bathsheba and how David is confronted with this sin by a friend Nathan, which, by the way, everybody needs a Nathan in their life.
Yeah.
Like, do you have the kind of man in your life that's like, bro, you're jacking things up here? Well, David did. His name's Nathan. And he receives the grace of God and writes Psalm 51. So what's incredible about the Bible, especially if you're new to Bible study, the objective reality of things like Romans 3 and John 3:16, we find the subjective appropriation of that reality in David's life when he writes this Psalm 51, create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew in me a steadfast spirit. He doesn't just need to be sorry, he's asking to be different. And the grace of God makes him different because it cleanses him.
I was interacting with some Bible scholar, and I can't remember who it was or where it was, but I thought I was pretty boned up on David, King David. But I found a new thing. Let me tell you if you've heard this or you agree with it, that when David was with Bathsheba, he was actually 60.
Oh, wow.
The older I get, I just turned 59 yesterday. The older I get, the more I can feel temptations I didn't before. You know, like I'm more susceptible to stuff right now than I feel like I was when I was 25.
Well, I will say it makes a lot of sense. All right, so 2 Samuel 17 starts out something like, this isn't like word for word, but in the time of the year when kings went to war, David sent Joab and laid on the couch. And the moment men start abdicating responsibility, my daddy used to always say a flatbed truck drives way better with a load in it.
Right.
And men are like a flatbed truck. Yeah. And so a lot of times, especially somebody that's, in their 50s or 60s and been really successful and have a lot of margin.
Yep.
And abdicate responsibility and don't go to war, they end up walking on roofs and watching girls take baths and doing shady stuff.
Yep. Yeah, and that's afforded to you as you age because as you get older, you don't have the same financial pressures you had when you were younger. You've got maybe an organization built around you that can do things that only you used to do before. You've got certain perks that come with your position that you didn't have when you were younger. Yeah, so it's a hotbed for temptation if you, as a man, aren't still putting your head down and going forward.
There's one little piece in that first in 2 Samuel 17. So it's like step by step, right? So 1 Corinthians 6, when it comes to sex, says flee sexual immorality, and what David's doing is flirting with it. It's like one step at a time. I'm not going to go to war. I'm going to lay on the couch. I'm going to walk out on my porch. I'm going to look at Bathsheba. It's just like one step at a time. And then eventually he tells one of his people, go get her for me. And somebody says, isn't that Uriah's wife? That's the moment when he could go, you know what, you're right. I should stop. So I'm sure, because you've got a young staff like I have, and every month there's some famous pastor find out they've been sleeping with their secretary or something,
Yep.
And a bunch of my staff will go, what happened? What happened? And I can tell you exactly what happened. It was one step at a time, and as soon as this man, who maybe got into ministry for all the right reasons and knew all the right theology, and at some point, they started going down a road, and the Spirit of God tapped them on the shoulder and said, whoa, 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 whoa. And that dude said, forget you, I got this. And the most dangerous words a man could ever say is, I got this, because you ain't got this.
Right.
And so David said, don't worry about it. And it ended in destruction.
Yeah, and we're talking pastor speak between you and I because that's our gig. But this is for all men, all occupations, all women, all occupations. This temptation goes across all genders. It's a big deal.
No doubt. It's one step at a time.
All right, awesome. 6, grace for the outcast.
This is when Jesus encounters the woman at the well. She was outcast socially, relationally. She'd made a train wreck of her life. And Jesus meets her right where she is and changes everything about her. And one of my favorite things about this is he's having this like conversation about God and worship and where you're supposed to worship and water and all of this. And when he makes the connection, he's like, you keep coming to this well because you think it'll satisfy you, but you got to keep coming back. If you knew who I was, I'll satisfy you forever. And she says, give me some of this living water. And then here's the key, I think. And he goes, cool, go get your husband. Well, he knows she's on her 5th man. And so here's why I think this is real. At church, man, people fake it at church all the time. But a real Jesus died on the real cross for the real you. And so he really wants to dive into the deepest, darkest places of your life, and you don't have to fake it with him. 7, grace forgives. Forgiveness is all of it. Well, the church talks a whole bunch about what you do when you mess up or sin. The church hardly ever talks about what do you do when somebody sins against you.
Oh, there you go. Right.
And ultimately, Jesus in Matthew chapter 18 just rolls out a new way to think about forgiveness. And the reason that we forgive is because we have been forgiven. And it's not about your feelings. You're going to have all kind of feelings. But he talks about forgiveness as a debt-debtor relationship. And because God has forgiven us our debt, then we should forgive those who have a debt against us. Grace is slow to anger. Yeah. This is just like a therapy session for me because I struggle in this area.
Don't piss me off with your answer either. Seriously,
right.
I'm really kind of on edge here over this whole grace thing.
Well, the Bible does call men to be aggressive. But that's different than anger. It says be slow to anger. It doesn't say no anger. There's some things that should piss you off. And it doesn't say blow up in anger. But there is a way that Jesus shows us how to rightly be angry and respond according to his justice as opposed to just reacting because we didn't get what we want. You get angry, you said? Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, how does your anger manifest itself?
I mean, just like you would think, I get loud and yell and all that. And here's the problem, man. You know this. Oftentimes, what everybody loves about you as a pastor, when you stand on stage and you're yelling about how evil the devil is and how he's trying to take over and whatever, people love that. Doesn't work real good at home when you walk in your house and tell everybody to sit down and listen because you got a sermon that they should hear.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. All right, and 9, grace again and again and again.
Yeah, man, this is Peter thinks he has screwed up his whole life fully and finally. He's denied Jesus 3 times after he promised that he wouldn't, and so he returns to his old lifestyle and goes fishing. And the resurrected Christ meets him right where he is, and he doesn't ask him a theology question. He asks him this: do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? And there's more love and grace in Jesus than rebellion and sin in you, and he reinstates Peter. And so I got a friend named Jim Bergen that says, there are no second chances. There's just the blood of Jesus and from now on. And that's what Peter gets.
Okay, that was really good, except you didn't tie in the story of your 2 dogs.
Here it goes. I had these 2 boxers, and we loved them and all of that. And then we live on a busy road, so we built a fence in the backyard because we loved them. So it was for provision and protection, but they hated the fence because they thought it was to prevent them from having fun. And one day they got out of the fence. And anytime you get out from under the authority or the provision or protection of the one that loves you, it feels like fun and freedom at first, but it can only lead to death and bondage. So the long story short is I find them at the pound and I go to pick them up. And the girl there I was a youth pastor at the time, so I didn't have any money. And the little girl was like, it's almost $300 per dog to get them back.
What?
Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, that's more than I paid for them to begin with. I didn't know that they accrue in value over time. That's incredible. And I was like, so what if I can't afford it? And she's like, well, you relinquish ownership to the dogs. Now here's the gospel tie-in. My dogs had incurred a debt that they do not have the ability to pay back. Like, if I would have told him, all right, dogs, I'm going to get you out of this, but you owe me $300 each. You better race a greyhound or deliver papers or save Timmy from a well. I don't know how you're going to do it. They don't have the ability to pay it back. And even if they promised and could fulfill the promise to be perfect dogs from today forward, it still doesn't pay the debt that they had incurred. Well, as I was negotiating with the lady at the place, they had a big poster in the pound, and it said, adopt a dog today for $30. And so I was like, all right, I want to relinquish ownership of my dogs. And she talked to me like I was the devil of hell. So I fill out this paperwork. She notarizes it. I take about 3 steps to the door. I come back and I say, I would like to adopt 2 dogs. And she was like, you can't adopt your own dogs. I go, that's neat. I got a notarized piece of paper here from the state of Florida that I don't have dogs. You have dogs. And so I had found a loophole. And so for $30 each and an adoption application, I legally adopted my dogs back into my family. And it is a picture of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Wow, that's unbelievable. Taking care of your health isn't always easy, but it should be at least simple. That's why for the last 2 years, I've been drinking AG1 every day, no exceptions, at home, on a hunting trip, camping off my motorcycle, no exceptions. It's just 1 scoop mixed in water once a day, every day, and it makes me feel ready to get moving. That's because each serving of AG1 delivers my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more. It's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. I like to have it in the morning. I have a 12 ounce of water, so right off the bat, I'm helping my hydration every single morning. This is the one product, if I had to recommend one, I'd recommend this one to elevate your health. It's AG1, and that's why I partnered with them for 2 years. So if you want to take ownership of your health, start with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/aggressivelife. That's drinkag1.com/aggressivelife. Get yourself some. What's your dog situation right now?
I have 2 little worthless dogs. I have miniature schnauzers named Georgia and Dooley. And our daughter, who's 14, about 5 years ago, finally talked us into it. And my wife wanted to get like hypoallergenic ones, and I just couldn't get a wussy looking dog. So schnauzers with beards were like they look like me, honestly. So
right.
They were the toughest thing, and so that's what we got. And now they're the love of my life and sit in my lap and, all the things.
You don't take any of your dogs in the field with you, do you?
No. I mean, the places I go hunting, some of them, they have like bird dogs and stuff. I don't have my own.
Yeah.
These are, like I said, I should have named them Worth and Less because they're good for nothing, but, they make you feel good when you come home.
I would love to have my dog Peanut in the deer blind with me, but she hates deer. She'd be all over it. She loves chasing deer. She loves it. She would not be able to keep herself calm. I got one of those scent-proof domes. I bought it a couple years ago, which is so nice. I don't know what the deer are like down in Georgia. Actually, you don't even have deers. You have rats that are larger than other rats. Your deer just...
Yeah, we don't have the big Ohio deer.
Right. You poor man. It's tough stuff. But, up here, or at least in the country, not in the city, deers are everywhere. City suburbs are everywhere because no one can kill them. They don't care about people, and people don't bother them at all. But when you get out in the country, those guys, man, you're in the wrong spot of wind. You've got a piece of clothing on that isn't descented. You make the slightest brush of your arm. You bring up your crossbow. They hear it. They are gone, right? So I'd love to have Peanut, except she couldn't do it. She'd just be too spastic.
Yeah, same here, man. I mean, I hunt in South Georgia, and, the South Georgia piney wood deer is the most skittish.
Oh, really?
Oh, my gosh, yeah. I mean, to kill good deer, I travel every year. So I hunt in Nebraska and South Dakota and Texas. Dude, go to Texas. They just walk out and invite you to kill them. So I love it.
Where do you go to go to a lodge or go to somebody's property? Where do you go?
Yeah. I do a couple of ranches in a couple of different places in Texas. You should come with me. It's super fun.
No, yeah, I might do that. Is it whitetail or muley down there?
Whitetail.
Whitetail.
Oh. Yeah. They've also got a bunch of exotics at one of these places I go. So my wife just asked me to. She likes Nilgai and Oryx because it tastes super good and they're huge, like 500 pounds.
Right.
So I go and fill my freezer with that every year.
Is it Ox Ranch?
I go to G2 is where I've been going the last couple of years.
I have
G2 Ranch.
Oh, that's sweet. I had a buddy who was taking me 2 years in a row to Ox Ranch, and it's unbelievable.
It's incredible,
extravagant experience. Yeah, and the first year was the Nilgai, whatever it is. I'm still eating them because I just can't keep up. And then,
delicious.
Oh, it is amazing, completely amazing. Yeah, I'd love to. We've talked about hunting together a number of times. I'll tell you what I'd like to do. I'd like to do Alaska, and I had a trip on the books 3 years ago, and I canceled. Did I ever tell you about that?
No, why?
Okay,
why?
So have you looked into doing an Alaska hunt?
Yeah, I'm trying to go next spring.
How are you looking to do it?
I'm sorry, next fall. It's going to be like a do-it-yourself, fly-in camp. It's going to be terrible. But I mean, it'd be awesome. But I'm going with a guy that kind of knows what he's doing, but he's got a cousin that's a guide. So we're going to bow hunt caribou. Oh, which wow. if you hit the right time of year, it's like the most doable one.
Wow.
But I want to do it all, man. I mean.
So I had a guy who I found on the internet, and I ended up calling him up, and he has this big web page. It's probably the most respected and participated in web page for hunting in Alaska. You can get a membership for it, and I can't remember the name of it. If anyone researches Alaska, like, this is the one. And it's a guy, a former guide, who retired because his wife came down with MS and he had to move to, I think it was Ecuador, just for her health purposes. And so his way to fund his retirement and take care of his wife was this thing. And so I signed up for it, whatever it was, $5 a month, whatever. And then I saw in the fine print there, if you want a hunt with him, or him download you personally all his knowledge as a former Alaskan guide, you could do that. So I contacted him, and it was like, I want to say $1,200, which, if you're not a hunter, this sounds like really extravagant. It's not. These things are expensive. So it was $1,200. He would tutor you through all the steps in the process, give you the phone numbers for all the guide planes, give you the phone numbers for the other rental places. And so we had a trip mapped out and I actually just found a charter, because it's impossible to find charters because they're always wanting to do their guides. They don't want to get outsiders from Ohio like me. So the thing was, fly to Anchorage, then from there get a bush plane outside of wherever into wherever we're going. And in that bush plane, you rent rafts and all that stuff. So you land, bush plane lands, you get out with your rafts, all your stuff, 4 guys, 2 rafts, and he gives you and he has the map, and you go down the river, and then he's got X's on the map where you would stop and you would hit. He recommends, you should get all tags. You should get, because you're all the way there. You should get caribou, you should get bear, and you should get moose. Right, great. And you go down the whole thing, and all this stuff happens, and then you come to the end of it, which I think is miles and miles and miles and miles. There's an exit point. But between those 2 points, there's nothing. Just you and hunting, and his X's on a map where you might want to try and set up camp. So we're doing that and getting ready for it. Had phone calls with them. Hyper anal guy. Like, okay, when you take that, he's going down to stuff like, hey, when you take down moose, it's illegal in Alaska to debone a moose. So you got to have a system where you can keep that moose meat from rotting. And so he's got this whole thing, go to Walmart, get big bags, put the thing in the bag, squirt it down with disinfectant or whatever, put it in the creek. He's doing this all. Well, all of a sudden one day, so long story, sorry, Joby. All of a sudden, but I know you're geeking about it because hunters are. All of a sudden one day, he stops returning my text. I'm like, this is unusual. This guy's normally giving me more information than I want. And so I don't think much about it. And finally, a few weeks later, I go to his Facebook page, and there's all kind of stuff up there about in memory of so and so.
Oh no!
Yeah, he's died. Right, he's died, and we already gave him the money. So I'm texting, I'm emailing, I'm emailing the webmaster of this web page. The guy goes, "Hey, I'm sorry, man. I just do the web stuff. I can't tell you anything." Finally, I think, okay, we lost $1,200. We don't have the maps or anything. So finally, about a week later, a personal friend of his reached out and say, "Hey, I can't remember his name right now. Steve, maybe." He said, "Hey, I'm a friend of Steve's, and we're settling his estate. I just saw you had this email. I'm sorry, all the money's spent. We can't help you. We can't refund it." I said, "Okay, that's all right. I don't expect you to refund it. I know the family's on a hard way financially and everything." She said, "Well, I'll tell you what I can do. I can send you copies of every hunting map he has in Alaska, along with all of his X's and notations." I said, "That'd be fine." So I have all this like ancient, well-known god of a guide in Alaska, all of his maps and all of his notations on it. I just need to use them sometime.
Let's go.
So you already have it figured out. You already have a trip planned. You're
not figured out. Like you said, getting the plane ride in is the thing that's hard. So
right.
I got a big block of time next fall, and there's this certain day when it opens, and we call our guy, and he's going to give us a window of like whatever 8 days that he could take us. And there's a couple of things in my calendar I just can't move, but if it works, then I'm going, and if it doesn't, then we'll try again every year until it works.
And you're doing bow, not rifle.
Right. But, yeah, I mean, we are, but other people could rifle hunt. Like, if you want to go with us, dude, it's me, Charles Martin, that writes these books with me, and I think his cousin, who is a guide in Alaska.
You have a fourth spot?
Oh, yeah.
All right. I've thought about getting into bow hunting because it's definitely the next evolution.
You got to.
Yeah, I've done crossbow for deer here because in Ohio crossbow counts for bow.
Yep.
I know eventually I'm going to do bow hunting on my annual elk hunt, but first I've got to drop a deer with a regular bow.
Yeah, but yeah. But I mean, once you start shooting one, I mean, it's also all about the range. If you're within range, that's not quite as easy as a crossbow, but it's when you get proficient with it.
Yeah.
If you just shoot a little bit, then it's no problem. I mean, the biggest problem is like your heartbeat, your heart rate, right. Trying to control that buck fever. I mean, I shot a big old monster elk. It's funny. Last year, I practiced and trained at 70, 80, 90 all summer. So that anything within 80 yards, I'd be able to shoot with my bow. And this big elk comes into 16 yards. I could have just juked him with my arrow, man. Smoked him.
You did. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Where did you hit him?
Right in the heart.
No,
I was going to double lung him. You mean like what? I was in Colorado.
Colorado.
Yeah, western Colorado near Gunnison.
Gosh, that's exactly where I hunted last year. And
yeah, they were screaming. I mean, it was awesome. It was perfect.
How did you get your tag?
Through a landowner tag through a guy I know.
Oh, that's awesome. Jeez.
Yeah.
You and I can go down to a hunting rabbit hole podcast. Dirt, are we allowed to do that? I'm with somebody who can talk what I want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean,
like some of the people we get on here, I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Okay, I'm bored. Now
this is your podcast.
Now I'm just starting to get excited here.
Keep going.
You have time?
Dude. Me? Yeah. Talk about hunting? Heck yeah. That's all. Yeah. I mean, I hunt. I hunt a lot. In fact, I mean, a bunch of the churches that we plant around the world, I make sure that we plant some of them in places where I can go hunting. So I go visit those. I'm not kidding. South Africa, Argentina, places like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Have I told you about my hunting trip from hell for elk last year?
No. What happened?
Oh, dude, it was horrible. It's heartbreaking. Horrible. We had gotten totally frustrated with doing over-the-counter tags in Colorado. We just hadn't seen anything, and we worked hard for it, like -11, getting our own outfitter tent with a potbelly stove, hiking out for a week. We done it like for three years in a row and just saw nothing. Saw tracks, heard bugles, nothing.
Brutal, yeah.
So finally we said, let's spend a little more money here. So I found some guide who has, as you mentioned, private landowner tags. So he basically goes to the landowner. For all of our listeners, he goes to the landowner who has a bunch of land, and it gets a certain amount of tags. You can't hunt unless you have a tag, which is the government saying you can kill an animal. Here's your permission to kill an animal.
Yeah.
And if you buy these tags, you got to have a guide. It's kind of not by state law, but by the guy who buys the tags. So he's basically buying the tags, a little markup there, but the biggest markup is then he's got his guides, and they can do their stuff. So I'm just going to go real quick on this story because I could geek out a lot. I'll just put it this way: the last day, we see the same thing. These guys are down. But when I say guys now, I'm saying the guides under this outfitter's employ and previous hunters who have tagged out and now can't hunt. They're on the bottom of these mountain ranges with glasses. They're looking way up, and they see this herd of elk at 13,000 feet. They're like, there they are. Let's go get them. So this is now the second time up that top of that mountain. First time we did it on horses until about 12,000 feet. We had a football sprint before dark came down to try to make it up in time, and we didn't. So here we go. Again, this time we're gonna hike. So we start taking off. We go up. We stop for dinner in the end of the tree line, which I don't understand why we did. But the guide says we need to do this. I was like, well, why? This seems stupid. Let's get to the top and have our meal. But we don't. We keep going. Sure enough, we come out of the trees, and the whole herd of elk comes up over the crest, and one of them sees us, and of course the whole herd is spooked. I'm going, this is my whole freaking life here. This is horrible. Every time. Why in the world did we wait? Did we not wait to have the food that we packed at the top where we could have been sitting and waiting?
Right.
That 10 minutes was it. So now I'm pissed off. I got a bad attitude. We get at the top. It's my son and I and this guide who's with us, and down below they radio up. They say, actually have cell service. The outfitter tells the guide, "Hey, the next ridge over, there's elk." We look out in the binoculars. Sure enough, there's elk. But it's an hour left of shooting light. We have no way to get over there. So I'm sitting there licking my wounds. It's horrible. All of a sudden, there's a false summit right in front of us. We're on this rocky outcrop at the top of this mountain, 13,000 feet, and two massive bull elk come up. Two. There's wandering. They come up, and our guide is deaf, Joby. He hasn't heard anything. It's hard to hunt with a deaf guide.
Yeah, that's rough.
Pardon me? Huh? If you're trying to whisper to him, he can't hear you, right? So Jake, my son, and I were going, okay, here we go. Jake, you take the one on the left, which is the bigger one at this point. I'll take the one on the right. So, okay, great. And we'll count to 3. We already had our system down. And I was like, hold on, we're pulling the trigger on 3? Or 1, 2, 3, pull the trigger? No, pull the trigger. Okay. 1, 2, and then the elk crisscross. So I said, okay, you take the left, I'll take the right. So we basically do that 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, goes down. This guy can't believe that we shot simultaneously. He wants to check our guns because it wasn't like a bam. It was one simultaneous thing.
There you go.
Both of them feet go up, fall on their back. They roll down over this false summit. And our guide's like, he gets on the phone with his boss. We got 2 MF and bull down. Because he's excited for himself. And I said to Jake, these things are hardy. This will be my third one I've killed. I've killed 2 so far. These guys are hardy. You think they're done? They're not done. Right. We can't see them. So let's go. We want to go around, and sure enough, they're both gone. And there's a blood smear coming down the mountain. And he looks over to the right, and there's his elk is down about 100 yards down the right. Apparently, it's gotten spined. It's when your bullet goes through spine. It's a horrible thing, tough thing. And then mine is to the left, 90 yards, and the guide who's killed hundreds of elk, where I've done 2, says, "You stay here. We're going to deal with this one first." I said, "You sure? You don't want me to just put another shot?" No, you stay here. Don't do anything. We're going to deal with this one. Okay. They go down and deal with this. And sure enough, so I'm looking at my deer, my elk, 90 yards away. It stands up and it walks into the forest, never to be seen again. I run after it, like, oh gosh. And there's some blood, all that stuff. We get my son's deer or his elk all done, and we're at the top of this mountain. By the time we've done it all, we've got it boned, we've got it quartered, we're 13,000 feet. We got 3 guys trying to haul down how many hundreds of pounds. Right. And I am scared. I mean, I am freaked. I've never had more than 100 pounds on my back.
Yeah,
I've got all
especially
that I had coming. Yeah, and you're right. I'm going down a mountain, no trail, deadfall. I've got which is trees coming over. I've got snow up to our knees, and it's pitch black. It was freaking terrifying. I don't know how we did. We got down at 1:00 in the morning. Jake got his, and we got it all done. And then I had to go back up the next day and try to find mine, and we couldn't find it. It was a bummer. We found spots, and these guides would go down. They'd scoop up this green matter on the ground. They go, that guy goes, yeah, that's bile. And they said to me, tell me about the shot. I said, okay, well, it was a 1/4-2 shot. I know it's not the best, which is a broadside shot, a double lung, which my son had. It's 1/4-2, so for those who are not hunters, the front shoulders turn to you a little bit. It's not a bad shot, but it's not a great shot. So I decided to take the shot because of the dream of my son and I putting down an elk in the same minute. And he said, okay, well, tell me how you did. Well, there was the shoulder, and then I realized I didn't put the scope on the front of the shoulder, so it would...
Yeah, you shot him back and came out the gut.
100%.
But the moral of the story, when you saw that dude down, bullets are cheap. Just keep...
Right.
Load him up.
Right.
That was bad on your guide, though.
Right.
Your guide's got to be like, shoot that bull, shoot that bull, shoot
Hell
that
yeah.
bull.
Right. Yeah.
Never stop.
I'm a pretty good follower. I know that. I'm a really good follower. But when the guy who's the expert says, don't do that,
not. I'd be like, oh, don't shoot?
No. 100% right. And that's why I'm tortured. I'm utterly tortured by this.
Yeah,
and
that's bad.
That bile they were finding said, well, yeah, your bullet went in on his right side, and everything we're finding is on the left side.
Yeah.
And so I am just horrified. I don't know if the animal may be living right now. If not, it had a horrible death over days. The only reason I tell a story is a good story, but it is horrifying. I hate it.
Yeah, you got to think about where it exits. That's the best way to think about it. Instead of thinking about where it enters, think about it like an arrow, where it's going to come out. And you want it to come out just behind the off shoulder. So if it's quartered away, you back up. It's 1/4-2, you go forward. That'll help. And you load that puppy up with lead until he quits breathing.
Right.
I'll buy you some more bullets.
90 yards away, I could have I don't need a stand or a brace. No, just free shot it from 90 yards away. That's why I'm so upset.
If you hunt long enough, the sickest feeling ever is injuring an animal and then not recovering them. And it happens to everybody. But the vultures and coyotes got to eat too, so I'm sure they did.
Yeah, I had turkey vultures come to our house last week. We were sitting on the pool, and some deer, unbeknownst to me, had died 20 yards away in our deep grass, and it was.
Oh gosh!
I couldn't see the thing. All I knew was 30 turkey vultures are just killing this thing. He had one turkey vulture at the top of this dead tree. I'd never seen this before. I don't know if you've seen this, but he stood at the top of the tree with his arms, his wings spread out as a communal gesture saying, hey, all you turkey vultures, come on, let's do it.
Here he is.
By the morning, everything was gone. Ribs, skull, but all of it gone.
Yeah, they're nasty, but they'll clean up quick.
Yeah, 100% they will.
Well, we'll go hunting, man.
All right. Well, I'd love to do that. You'd probably be the guys who I'd have to leave behind, because they wouldn't be invited. It would be heartbroken. But maybe not. Maybe we'll figure it out.
You can go more than once.
Yeah.
You can go with but we need to figure out a few hunts together.
I agree. We've said that now for years. And you equipped me to do that boar hunt on your church property last year. Did you hear that monster I got in your property?
There are pictures hanging up now. Huge.
It is freaking massive. So, all right, tell that story. This is an unbelievable story. How you got that property. This is an aggressive move.
Yeah, this is aggressive. So I used to be friends with a guy that was a part of a 5-star quail plantation And we would run church retreats there in the off season. Well, they decide to sell it, and it goes on the market for $55 million. And one of our elders says, we should put in a bid. But, we're a church. We don't have $55 million for retreat centers. So we put in a bid for $10 million. Well, this group called the TRC, which is a bunch of hippies from somewhere that buy land and put easements on it to protect endangered species, of which there's 4 there. There's a woodpecker, a turtle, a snake, and something else. So they buy it for 55. They put the easements on it to lock it down forever. And then they flip it to sell it again for $55 million. But now it's got all these easements. So we put our $10 million offer back in. A bunch of people line up to buy the place. But the investors don't want it because you can't build it out like they want to. Long story short, we're the last ones in line. We're the only ones left. And the Nature Conservancy like what we want to do because all we want to do is use it as is for like discipleship retreats kind of things. So we bought a 3,200 acre, 5-star, 9-cabin resort on the water with a golf course for $12 million. And now we run about 2,000 church members through it and about 300 pastors a year. And it operates in the black, and to God be the glory, man.
Yeah, it's
so you came in and shot a big old monster wild boar with tusk and all the things.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was great. Right. Like those, they said, your guy, Kelly said, look, when you shoot these things, you want to do them right in the ear hole. And I was like, really?
Yep.
Not the old broadside thing? Well,
no, you brain them.
Well, yeah. Once I actually saw what a sizable hog was like, I don't think a bullet 308 would actually have penetrated the hide and the fat. Would it have penetrated?
Yeah, it will. But those big boar like you shot has a shield wall on the right where its vitals is. Like from the day it's born, it deposits this fat that becomes hard and thick. But like I can't get an arrow through like right behind the shoulder at a big boar like the one you shot. You've either got to get a quartering away shot and put it behind it, like up behind the ribs, or quartering to and send it down the neck if you're hunting with a bow and arrow. But it will kill them, but they'll run off and they don't bleed good because all that fat soaks it up. So if you just put it right in the ear hole, then lights out.
Gosh. So crazy. If you don't know, if you're a civilized person up north, hogs are a huge problem.
Oh, yeah.
There was, when the first time I was down on your property, Joby, there was some bovine biologist who said that these hogs have three litters a year. By the time they're having their 3rd litter, the first litter is having sex and reproducing.
Correct.
So if you want to lower the hog population, which they shouldn't be there, they're not indigenous. They shouldn't be there. If you want to lower the hog population by 1, you have to kill 7.
25 in a year.
Oh, is that what it is? Sheesh.
Yeah, because they have 3 litters. Each litter has 8 per. That's about the average. And like you said, the first litter's dropping more piglets by the time mama's having the 3rd. So we kill about 250 pigs a year at our place. And we're continuously overrun with hogs. It looks like we've never hunted a hog there. Ever.
Really?
And we kill 250 a year.
So you're not keeping up with demand then?
Not even close. But
wow.
What's great though is when we host church events and retreats, or we bring in pastors to use the place, we can just turn them loose on hogs. Like if you're managing for deer and turkey, it's very precise and you only shoot this deer and this, but you can hunt hogs year round. I don't care how you kill them. You can shoot them in the head you can shoot as many as you want. So it's a lot of fun, especially for people that don't have hogs and people up north or people that have never killed one or brand new hunters, so what we thought was a burden is actually a huge blessing for us.
Right.
Yeah, people can pig hunt. So we do these father-kid hunts all the time up there from church and let everybody go hog hunting. You can also hunt them at night. So we got all these ARs with thermals and we ride around on the Can-Ams and shoot them in the fields.
That is
pretty great.
Awesome.
That's part of you asked me about, the mega church pastor life. A major way that I stay sane is that my wife and my church realizes what a positive impact hunting is for my soul.
Yeah.
And so I have pretty good rhythms where I get to go be in the woods and just be with the Lord in the woods.
Yeah.
And I think a huge problem, especially with men today, is when we lose our awe for God, you're in trouble. And if all you ever do is breathe air-conditioned air and see man-made things, you're going to think you're a big deal. But if you get to see the sunrise and the birds wake up and the woods come alive a couple times a week, then it'll keep you in tune with just how little you are and how big God is.
Yeah. Joby, is there anything you wanted to talk about that we haven't talked about in this podcast?
I need you to connect me with your horse guy. I need to do your horse thing, man.
Oh, dude.
Remember you told me about that, and I was like, maybe. So I'm sitting here and I watch it. I'm at my office right here, and I watch it, and I'm just in tears, man. I am like, holy moly. So I go home and I tell my wife, I'm like, babe, my buddy Brian's church, they put a horse ring on the stage, and this guy, and I'm trying to tell her. And, you know, you guys, however many services you do, it's a new horse every time.
Right.
My wife and I sat on the couch and watched YouTube services of your church 5 times in a row of every horse. And so anyway, I need you to connect me with that guy. And,
Yep.
And I need to do that. But
Todd Pierce.
Yeah.
And, well, by the way, we already mentioned a mutual friend, Jim Bergen. You know, Jim did that this last summer.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I was with him like a month ago with Jim, and he was just bragging on it like crazy. He said it's the best thing he's ever done at his place. We're going to do it. We got to do it here.
Yeah. Well, I've been telling people of our size, and because you got to have a pretty big stage to do that, and you also got to have a church that's pretty risk averse. And I've been telling people about this for years and years. And then finally, the first person to do it is Jim, and now you are going to get going. And so that's awesome. Your people are going to be blessed to the nth degree. Yeah,
I can't wait. So thanks for that, man.
Yeah, no problem. I'll text and send it to you. All good, brother. All right. Well, hey, listen, everybody. Thanks for sitting in on a conversation I have with a good friend. We don't spend nearly enough time together. That's why we kind of took our podcast to just talk about personal stuff. So thanks for tuning in here. I think you got something here today. You might not have just gotten some hunting knowledge and some grace knowledge, but maybe you heard something that you know that's for me. That's for that anger thing. That's for me. Yeah. I've been saved by grace, but I'm not operating by grace. Whatever it is, take it, put it in your teeth, and put it to action. Go do that thing. The book is called Run Over by the Grace Train. Joby, so where can someone follow up with you or know what's going on with you or just give an advertisement for yourself or anything you want people to do?
JobyMartin.com. That's all the stuff's there. Like where I'm going to be and preach and books and all the things. And our church is COE22.com. And all the sermons and sermon series are there if anybody's interested. It's all free.
COE22. What's the C and O for?
Church of 1122.
Got it.
.com.
Okay, next time we do this, you need to be wearing like long sleeve sweatshirt. I really don't need to be seeing your guns and feel like a girly man here. I
got to go to the gym right now.
No, you do not need to go to the gym. You need to like take a break. You're gonna explode, bro.
That's your secret in your 50s. I just trained hard in my 20s and 30s. Now I just wear my wife's t-shirt. That's what I do. And in Florida, here's another fitness tip. Over 50 fitness tip in Florida. Tan fat equals muscle. I don't know if you know that, but I think it's true.
All right, my friend. Thanks. We'll be in touch after this. We'll see you next time on The Aggressive Life.
Peace.
Thanks for joining us on this journey toward aggressive living. Find more resources, articles, past episodes, and live events over at briantome.com. My new books, repackaged edition of The 5 Marks of a Man and a brand new 5 Marks of a Man tactical guide are open right now on Amazon. If you haven't yet, leave this podcast a rating and review. It really helps get the show in front of new listeners. And if you want to connect, find me on Instagram at Brian Tome. The Aggressive Life is a production of Crossroads Church, Cincinnati, Ohio.